Chris, I saw you. I guess Ryan wrote a article on Scarlet and Game this
Yes.
week that really was a hot button for a lot of people, including you, Mr. Wilds. And so I've got to ask you. I'm just gonna like turn it over to you here in a second. But is Quinn Ewers literally Tate Martell 2.0, buddy?
Well, before I jump into that, let's look at it a little bit. So we got Quinn Ewers. Of course, everyone knows he came to Ohio State. He came up a year early to get a little bit of a cash grab because in Texas he couldn't do it. So Ewers comes up, and I've said this though from day one with when Arch Manning committed. Quinn Ewers now has 1 year to be the quarterback at Texas if he beats out Manning this season. Ewers was okay last season, didn't have a tremendous campaign, but if he doesn't establish himself this year as a first round pick, he's done next year, Eric. He's not going to be the starting quarterback at Texas next year. And anybody who thinks he is just flat wrong. The fact is, if you got to choose between Ewers and Arch Manning, who's sitting on the bench at the moment, you're going to take that Manning name next year. The alumni of Texas, the supporters of Texas, they are not going to let Manning walk out the door. So Ewers has this year to get the job done if he even wins the starting job. That being said, I think Ewers shot himself in the foot. Had he stayed in Columbus, learned under Day, studied and sat behind Stroud, this was going to be a 3-horse race in Columbus had he done that. And he would then have 2 years to get himself into position to be a top tier draft pick. And you have the benefit of the best wide receiver room in the country. He's down at Texas now, and they've got some okay receivers. They got some talent down there. Uh, but Ewers made the mistake of being short sighted. He declared early for a cash grab, and then he left for Texas for a bigger cash grab. And now he's in a battle for a job that, if he doesn't win, let's face it, I think he moves on. So yeah, I think it's very likely we're gonna tater tot 2.0 here, Eric. I don't see how we're not because I don't see him being a first round draft pick after this season. And you know what? I'm going to make a statement here, Eric. I know it's not going to be real popular with a lot of people, and I specifically not with a lot of guys who may have worn the uniform. But I truly believe the NIL may have ruined this kid's career.
Mm.
You think about it. If there's no NIL, he doesn't reclassify to come early to Columbus. He likely would be sitting behind CJ Stroud last year when he did come to Columbus and learning and developing. He doesn't transfer before getting the opportunity to establish himself. NIL, in essence, encouraged an immature kid to make a series of questionable decisions, and it's liable to cost him millions of dollars in the long run. So, yeah, I really feel like Quinn Ewers and NIL was a bad combination, and it's going to turn him into, like you said, the Tater Tot 2.0.
Brad Oberding says Ewers had a decent first year. I think he'll be lights out in 24 with a good year in 23. Brad, let me share the numbers
He,
with you for this past
yeah,
year. Actually, I have them, Chris. So
I
let
did
me
as well. Go ahead.
172 completions on 296 attempts for 2,177 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now,
He was less than
granted,
60% completion rating, Eric. I mean, that's not great.
no, it's not. You're right. It it's not great, but there was one particular thing that was on his team or one aspect of his team
Yes,
that is not going to be there next year, and that's the running game with Bijan Robinson. He did not have to win football games for them last year.
correct.
Bijan Robinson was the best in running back in college football last year. He'll be the first running back off the board in the NFL draft. Let's face it. So the fact that this year they might probably be more of a pass first offense could help him numbers wise. Now, if he goes out there and he ends up throwing a pick for every 2 touchdowns, and his numbers aren't that great, you're right, Chris. Those Longhorn faithful are going to be calling for Manning. Now, let me ask this question.
Yes,
When we compare Ewers to Tate Martell, they were very highly touted high school quarterbacks.
correct.
Ewers reclassified early, meaning last year was technically, in all reality,
His freshman season.
his freshman year of college.
Yeah,
He spent his senior year of high school as a freshman at Ohio State learning under Ryan Day, which we all thought was very valuable for him. We've seen this now twice now because we also have a player this year in Sonny Styles, who is a sophomore who really should be a freshman. He reclassified as well. What did he do last year? He got in a little bit, a normal freshman, right? Who would be, a highly touted, highly recruited
yeah,
freshman. But the quarterback position is very, very different.
it is.
So is Quinn Ewers and I look at Tate Martell, are they both kind of basically prima donnas a little bit? They've
You
got
have to ask.
they're all world number one. Everybody's patting them on the back, 5 stars, this, that. And the college game is so different than high school.
Yes,
I mean, you really got to take. I mean, look at how we talk about offensive linemen developing.
right.
When I think about Tate Martell, he was immature. Do you feel that Quinn Ewers was immature, Chris? Is that part of the
Absolutely.
problem here?
That's a
And
huge part of the
why
problem
is that? Why do you feel that way?
because he didn't take the time to think out the process. Um, there's two big differences, and yes, when you look at Sonny Styles versus Quinn Ewers, Sonny Styles came in physically ready to play the college game. Yeah, he's going to be bigger and stronger as he gets more experience, but he was a physical position, and he had a natural instinct about him that just, I think, put him in a position to come in and play as a freshman. The quarterback position is not meant to be played by freshmen. An example, though, that could do that is you look at Arch Manning, and here's a kid that's got a lot of the same stuff that I'm talking about with Sonny Styles. Physically, I mean, he could use getting bigger and stronger, but he's a pretty good sized kid, and he's got a natural instinct about him that I think just comes with that Manning name. Um, I really feel like this competition is one to watch across the country, as I think it's going to have a ripple effect. I don't know that Manning or Ewers, either one, is going to be willing to sit down. Manning may be more likely to, being a freshman, but this is a kid who's the highest, one of the highest recruited quarterbacks in the country, and I just I don't know. I don't know that he's got it in him to want to sit and wait, knowing what he's got ahead of him. And Ewers, I think, knows he can't wait because if he steps back at all, if he even, I think, I look at Ewers right now and it makes me think of Cardale Jones in 2015,
Mm.
constantly looking over his shoulder. Now, granted, JT Barrett and Arch Manning are nowhere near the same guy, but he's going to be looking over his shoulder the entire season. And I think if he does not come out and just stamp his name on that starting job right out of the gate, and he has to be, really, really dominant in doing so. I can't see Ewers finishing up his college career at Texas. I just can't.
So you think he jumps again?
Absolutely, I think he's definitely going to jump again.
Larry Daniels says, so if he really didn't want to be here at Ohio State, aren't we better off without Ewers? Yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
At some point, is he a bit flaky, or are there just some players that jump around a lot? Yeah, I
I think
think
it's a little bit of
so.
both.
As Ohio State fans, would you like to see Ewers still on this roster? Are we playing a little bit sour grapes?
I don't know. Just because I
It
look
all
at what he
depends on what he does this year, right?
well, I saw what he did at Texas last year, and those were very pedestrian numbers for a guy who really wasn't asked to go out there and win ball games and make big plays. You'd think, at least if nothing else, that the completion percentage would have been higher because he wasn't asked to go out there and stretch the field on every play. He wasn't asked out there to go out there and win games with big, huge plays with his arm. He was basically asked to control the game, get first downs, and hand the ball to Robinson without dropping it. Uh, that's
Yeah. So you look at Tate Martell though. Let's take this back to the Tate Martell
okay.
comparison. Tate Martell's best game. I was at that game. He got in the second half against Tulane. I think it was
Tulane.
Tulane,
Yeah.
and he didn't have an incomplete pass. He looked
Yeah.
amazing, and from that moment on, his career was non-existent. He never really got in again for Ohio State. You could tell he was, and then it went from Urban to Ryan Day,
Yeah.
right? Ryan Day was running a completely different offense than what Urban Meyer ran, and he saw the writing on the wall because just they went out and got Justin Fields, and he was not prepared for that. And I kind of felt sorry for him a little bit. I mean, that happens during coaching changes. He goes to Miami, Florida, and falls completely on his face. He goes back home to Vegas, play for UNLV, falls completely on his face. He never in his college career ever did anything outside of that second half against Tulane, ever.
Do
Ewers
you
has.
think he
Ewers played that
has?
whole season. He had Alabama on the ropes until he got hurt.
He did. But here's the thing, Eric, that I look at. You look at Tate Martell, and I think you have an immature, and I believe Larry Daniels said flaky
Mhm.
was the term, an immature and flaky kid, and he lost his confidence. I think that's a big part of what happened to Ewers after he was, basically displaced. He was broken mentally. You know, I think the psychological part of the game got away from him, and I think he was broken. He didn't have the confidence.
You're talking about Tate Martell.
Tate Martell.
Okay.
I look at Ewers, and if he doesn't win this quarterback competition this spring, Eric, I could see the same thing happening to Ewers. Um, I don't know if it'll happen to that extreme because, like you said, he does have a somewhat solid season behind him. So he knows he can play at the college level. But, again, I see an immature and flaky kid who, if he loses this job to an incoming freshman, no matter what the kid's name is, I can see it breaking his confidence.
I mean, yeah, that can happen. That could be true of anybody. Facebook user says no on would we want to have viewers here for this season? It says no. Larry Daniels says no to viewers. He should have that maturity to know CJ was more talented. Um, yeah, well, and more experienced.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that we can look back on with our two current quarterbacks,
Yes.
uh, that they set under and they set under CJ for 2 years, one of them for 2 years, and they were patient. The quarterback is not like running back. You can't plug and play, guys,
Right.
especially in an offense that is as intricate as Ryan Day's.
Yes.
It takes time and development. And that's one of the things I'm worried about this season is I think we as fans, our expectations might be slightly unrealistic here. and thinking that we're going to get another Dwayne Haskins, another CJ Stroud, another Justin Fields, because that's been the last three quarterbacks in a row that we've gotten who in their first season were exceptional. That's not normal,
It's not, Eric, but you look, McCord's in his third season. He doesn't have the game reps, but he
right?
has been at Ohio State with Ryan Day, with Corey Dennis, with CJ Stroud, with this group of receivers for the last two seasons. He's taken snaps in practice. You know, I'm not saying he's going to come out and light the world on fire, but there is an expectation of maybe not a Heisman, but a level of at least a level of greatness and a level of consistency that I believe should be there.
Larry
Having been in
Daniels,
the system this long.
Larry Daniels says not everyone who leaves OSU can be Joe Burrow. This is true. However, last argument before we move on to our next topic. That first year of Joe Burrow down in LSU
He
was
struggled a little.
not too different than what we saw with Quinn Ewers. Now, the difference is I believe Joe Burrow had a better coaching staff around him offensively.
Well, and I think he had better talent. You look at Jamar Chase, the wide
True.
receiver. You look at the I can't think of the tight end. He was actually just visited. He just visited the Bengals this year. He played the first 4 years of his career with the Raiders. Great tight end, great receivers. You know, and Ewers doesn't have that at Texas. He's got good talent, but he doesn't have a Jamar Chase at wide receiver.
That we know of. That we know of. Let's see how the year plays out there. Not a Texas
Yeah,
fan, but I'm being realistic.
no, that's fair.
But I do think you're onto something, Chris. If Quinn Ewers falls flat on his face early, it could get ugly there, big time. They'll be calling for Arch Manning.